Welcome to The Voice of Survivors, a podcast that shares stories of strength and success after domestic violence from the Australian charity Broken to Brilliant. The charity was founded by domestic violence survivors, and our mission is to mentor fellow survivors who are creating a new chapter in their lives, helping them to rebuild after abuse.
I'm very privileged today, and I hope you get just as much satisfaction and enjoyment in this conversation. Joining me is Bob Atkinson, and welcome, Bob.
Yeah,
May I call you Bob or Mr. Atkinson?
No, Bob, please, Nicci, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. To all our listeners, Bob Atkinson, former patron, Queensland Police Commissioner, 44 years, Queensland Police Service. You were also Commissioner of the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse. Also in 2018, report for Queensland Government on Youth Justice, and also Chair, Queensland Government's Truth, Healing and Reconciliation Task Force for its 5-year term. And in 2024, Assistant Commissioner, Royal Commission into Defence Veterans' Suicides. Have I got that all correct?
Oh, look, yes, and I've been very fortunate in my life to have the privilege to be able to do some of those things. Currently,
Yes.
I'm one of the 4 patrons for Broken to Brilliant, and so I'm not a survivor of domestic violence. But it's just I've been so impressed with that organisation, Broken to Brilliant, and the people involved in it in terms of what they do, that it's a real honour to be one of their patrons.
Let's start with the beginning of your career to now.
It's a very long time ago, Nicci.
I'm a survivor of childhood abuse. Only 4 years ago did I take the bravery to don't come near me anymore. Okay. Growing up, there was some police interventions, nothing much. They went, it doesn't. But in your time, spanning such a wide career, you're giving something back here with family domestic violence. You've been central figure in the police service, into commissions. What's this passion in you? Why this?
Good question. Well, I guess it was probably in the early stages of being in the police department in particular. Abuse in any form is a terrible thing. It's a sense of bullying. If I could just jump ahead for a little
Please.
bit, one of the things we found in the Royal Commission into Institutional Child Sexual Abuse, which ran for 5 years from the beginning of 2013 till the end of 2017, was something that you actually just touched on, and that is that for many people it's many, many, many years before they are able in any way at all to raise it or talk about it or try to deal with it. But for children particularly, any form of abuse is a terrible, terrible thing. And as part of my police career, 44 years, I was a detective for 20 years. And in small places, so you did everything, and that included working with children who were the victims of abuse. It was interesting. One of the things we found in the Royal Commission was that there was a complete lack almost of any research about child abuse. So we went about it in 3 ways: a research program, public hearings, which all commissions of inquiry have, of course, and what was called private sessions, where people could come forward in complete privacy and confidentiality and talk about what had happened to them. So
And that's just new, right?
Yes, one of the 6.
Yes.
There were 6 commissioners on it.
Yes, please.
And you would sit with that person in a room, and with support staff, of course.
Yes.
And allow. They were in total control of what was talked about. And we found that a very worthwhile exercise. And interestingly, most Royal Commissions since then, the Royal Commission into People with a Disability, the Royal Commission into Defence Veteran Suicides have followed a similar model in terms of using private sessions of the work they've done. But just coming back to it, in a sense, as part of the research program and in an ongoing sense, headed up by Professor Ben Matthews from the Queensland University of Technology, but involving numerous academics and other universities, a massive area of research was done. And the first report came out in 2023, I think it was, and it was about the extent of maltreatment or abuse of children. And what I found was interesting was, and I thought this was a good thing, that they identified 5 areas of abuse or maltreatment for children that they thought were very serious. So the first was sexual abuse. And the thing about sexual abuse of a child is it's always a crime. It's always a crime. But it's more than that in my view. There's the abuse of the child, but it's like a brutal robbery or theft. But what's stolen from the child is not any money they might have or valuables or anything like that. What's stolen from the child is their trust, their well-being, their self-confidence and their future potential. So to me, that's just about as low as people can get, in society. But the other 4, apart from sexual abuse, were physical abuse, psychological abuse, neglect and exposure to domestic violence. And so I think as we progress, societal change takes time. I think that probably we all want the same things in terms of any form of child abuse. We want to prevent it to the greatest extent possible. We want to, if there are warning signs there or what people call red flags or early intervention, we want to do that to the best extent possible. Sadly, if it does happen, we want to respond in the best way possible. And then finally, we want to support the victims in the best way possible. But what we are seeing, I think, more and more in society is that all of these issues and other issues as well are not standalone sort of in a box or siloed things, that there are linkages quite often, between things. So I think we're getting better at understanding that. And hopefully our responses and our manner of dealing with it will see those linkages as well.
So we're talking about behaviours, characteristics of those that would give you those alarm or alerts. Is that what we're talking about? And understanding the psyche or the cycle to identify.
Yes, and just at the risk of being repetitive, I think that model is a pretty good one personally for any of these issues. So prevention to the greatest extent possible, those early warning signs or red flags, so that we can try to prevent anything worse happening.
Yes.
And then if there is, like whether it's domestic violence or child abuse, the response we put into place for that, and then finally the support and recovery for the victim. And that's where Broken to Brilliant comes in. And their work reflects their title, of course. They look after people who've been the victims of abuse in terms of their recovery, regaining their self-confidence, the various programs they run, financial independence, building up someone's self-confidence in terms of employment. But again, I don't think they're 4 standalone separate things. So as well as doing that, if we go back to the beginning, I think they do prevention work as well, because if they help a woman who's been the victim of domestic violence recover from that, build up her self-confidence, become financially secure, get a job, then what they're doing is preventing that woman from falling back into another bad relationship, which can happen. No criticism, but very understandable. They're also doing work in terms of public and community awareness of these issues as well. So their work, to my mind, is broad rather than narrow.
On top of that, do they go and help educate police?
They do. What has happened in more recent times, following that dreadful, terrible event here in Queensland in February 2020, just over 5 years ago now.
Yes, we've spoken about that in some prior conversations. We're talking about Hannah.
Yes, Hannah Clark and
Yes.
3 children at Camp Hill.
It had a big, it affected everybody.
Yes, nationally.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't imagine a more horrendous set of circumstances. What happened as a follow-up to that was that there were basically three inquiries. One headed by a retired Supreme Court judge named Margaret McMurdo in relation to domestic violence. Another by the same judge, a retired judge, in relation to the experiences of women in the criminal justice system, both as victims and offenders. And then the third and final one was by another judge in relation to the police department and the way it was, I guess, engaging with victims and dealing with domestic violence. Now, following on from those things, the police department, and I might point out I've been retired as the police commissioner for 13 years now, so nothing I say is on behalf of the police department, but they expanded the training they were doing for officers becoming police, doing their recruit training and serving officers, and Broken to Brilliant have got a role to play in doing presentations for the police department in that regard. And I'm a bit biased probably, but I think they're doing fine work.
I think they are doing remarkable work because on both sides of the coin, excuse me, everybody, you've got to be able to sit down at a table inside an office of a police station potentially and report something. And it takes both sides, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. And
when you were talking about this last commission, is this the one that involved Shandy's story?
Look, it could have, I'm not sure.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think so, but
I listened to the podcast, if this is the one we're talking about, and the retired judge that came out. And as somebody who is a survivor trying to thrive, I'm 51 and only seeing it now, to see justice done so exemplary. It took investigative journalists, it took victims, but it took an incredible judge and prosecutor to, I think when you hear the words, this could never happen, if you live on that alone, you will miss seeing what's in front of you. And when I saw justice handled like this, mightier, and the power that it can have when it's done correctly, that gave me so much hope.
Yeah, I think we've got every reason to be, we have to be hopeful and optimistic. This is such a massive problem in our society. The Prime Minister has referred to it as a national crisis, and I don't think he's wrong in that regard. And what has happened, I think, over time is that it was regarded as private, personal, family business.
Yes.
And
they won a lot out of that, don't they? The perpetrators using that.
Oh, yes. And indicative of that, in my humble view, was this, that Queensland became a state in its own right in 1859, and we introduced legislation, which governments do. And in 1899, in Queensland, the criminal code was introduced with about 700 different offences. So that's 1899. And then as the 20th century unfolded, we had cars, so we had a Traffic Act, and then drugs became a problem. We had the Drugs Misuse Act. But it wasn't until 1989, 90 years after we had a criminal code, that we had any legislation at all to say that domestic violence was an offence. It took us 90 years after we had a criminal code, 700 offences, every offence imaginable.
Yeah.
Before, and to my mind, that was again because of that strong societal cultural view that this is private, personal, family business.
And let's extend from that. We had the Gillard government call out churches to also be answerable.
Well, yes, exactly. That's right. That was in November 2012.
Thank you for remembering that date.
That Julia Gillard announced that there'd been a lot of things that had happened in the lead up to that, but she was the first Prime Minister because there was a lot of resistance to it too.
Yeah.
And so she announced there would be a Royal Commission into institutional child sexual abuse because by then we were aware that in institutions children were being abused. So part of the Royal Commission was yes, what's the extent of this abuse, but also what were the institutions doing it? Who knew? What did they do? And in many cases, sadly, what they did was protect the offenders and in some cases move them somewhere else.
And this gave police more of a jurisdictional right to apply law? Is that what effectively...
In terms of domestic violence, yes,
Okay.
from 1989 onwards. And what's happened since then is we've seen a gradual expansion and strengthening of those laws. And more recently, in May this year,
Yes.
what was called coercive control was introduced more fully. And of course, that's an important aspect too, because I think many people, and in fact, there's a wonderful book, it's called See What You Made Me Do, and it's written by a woman named Jess Hill.
Yes.
And she talks about this aspect in her book.
Yes.
And the term domestic violence for a lot of people meant, or their understanding of it was, that's physical violence. So it's someone who gets a broken nose or a black eye or, some physical violence. But it's far more than that, and coercive control involves all sorts of control, threats, intimidation, financial control, what you wear, where you go, who you see, all of those things.
Yes.
And in her book, Jess Hill says, maybe we should call it domestic abuse because it is perhaps a broader term, but because that's for others to decide, not
Calling
for me.
the monster out.
Yeah, it's domestic abuse, not
Yes.
domestic violence, to have a better understanding
Yes.
that it's not only violence or the threat of violence, it's a lot of other things
Yes.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's calling the giant out, isn't it, from hiding behind that?
Yes, and I mean, because of my age, I joined the police department in 1968 at 20 years of age, so I've seen a lot of social change, and it takes time. But what's really important is that the momentum that's there now,
Yes.
that continues, and it continues through the work of Broken to Brilliant and many other good organisations as well.
Do you think since Hannah Clark sitting here today, there's been a change, a move? Has there been so much more growth?
Oh, yes, I do. That's just a personal view. But I think
Yes.
that event, and of course, Hannah's parents, Lloyd and Sue Clark,
Yes.
started the Small Steps for Hannah Foundation, and they've done amazing work as well. And just the courage of people like that. Another good example in a different context is Bruce and Denise Morecambe.
Yes.
And the Daniel Morecambe Foundation. This is their 20th year, 2025. People who give up their time and their effort and energy in situations like that to serve something that is just so terrible, and try and from that bring us to a situation where hopefully it doesn't happen again. I do think that the death of Hannah and her 3 children was the catalyst for a greater. It was certainly the catalyst for those inquiries, and I do think that's resulted in greater reporting. And although we do know that it's still the case that most domestic violence is not actually reported to the police or to a support organisation for help and assistance, but certainly there's a momentum now that I believe and certainly hope is unstoppable, and which will lead ultimately to a much better society.
Now, with the limitations that police have, and we can't say that everything must resolve around police. Here I'm talking about investigative journalism and the pros of what has led to commission inquiries, the changing of laws when there was just no shift or any budge. Do you think that still, as a community, plays a part in helping with this change to help police as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that where you have an issue like domestic violence, and I'm not alone in saying this, to bring about the change we need, we can't just say, oh, this is a job for the police, or this is a job for the media or investigative journalists, or this is a job for the courts. It has to be a whole of society thing. In talking about this with colleagues, probably 2 examples, if I could share them with you, if that's okay.
Yes.
If you go back 50 years, cigarette smoking was commonplace. Restaurants,
Yes.
even on aeroplanes.
Even in cars.
Cars.
As a child, parents smoking in the car.
Yeah. And in the workplace, it was just common. Now, if in the workplace today, in an office, say, someone lit up a cigarette, that person's colleagues would say, "Hey, that's not on. That's it's unacceptable.
It's not even a thought, is it?
Yeah. So if you want to have a cigarette, we'll go outside." Just so they'd say something and do something. And back when I joined the police department, it was considered a man's right to go to the hotel on payday on Friday night and basically have a lot to drink and drive home. Drink driving was seen to be a man's right. It was still technically illegal, but it was... now today I would hope and think that if there's a barbecue and someone's home and they've got friends and relatives there and someone has had far too much to drink and is heading to their car with the keys in their hand, that someone would say and do something. Say, "Look, Bill, this is not on. You can't drive. It's dangerous. It's unacceptable. I'm taking the keys off you. You can sleep here, or if you like, I'll drive you home." So saying and doing something. So to me, that's the tipping point.
That's where you catch it.
Yeah, just ordinary people like us say and do something, and I think we've still got a way to go yet with domestic violence.
Beautifully said. It's really about don't turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
We're learning now that even by witnessing it, not saying anything, that's a problem in itself.
Yes.
That's wonderful in a way of alerting, hey, come on.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's easy to do, because if it's a relative or your neighbour, it's not easy. And as well, we're not saying for a moment take over the job of the police and put yourself at risk of harm. We're not saying that, but it's that being, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be in a private moment to someone you're worried about and say, "Look, why don't we go and have a cup of coffee?"
Yes.
And then I'm a little bit worried about you. Here's some organisations you can contact if you need to.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And
neighbour-wise, I mean, it could happen next door. Not saying anything. How would you approach that?
Well, again, at a quiet and appropriate moment, maybe even put something in the letterbox. Here's a list of organisations. Maybe if you're on speaking terms with the person you think believe is the victim, have a quiet word. There's help available if or if you ever want to go and talk about it, and there is help available. That there are organisations like Broken to Brilliant and other organisations that can provide help.
And we're talking an umbrella here. We're not talking one resource. You're talking about two aspects. One was the beginning of the cycle. What do we call that one?
Well, the prevention in the first one, but the second one is what's called early intervention.
Okay.
Seeing or being concerned that something is or might be wrong.
And Broken to Brilliant has awareness and all of that facet as well of their legs and tentacles, don't they, in this?
Yes, absolutely. And part of their work over time has been where people have they've produced a number of books. And in those books, people tell their own stories. And that, I think, is a very good thing, people being prepared to say, this is what happened to me, because quite often people see that and say, oh, goodness me, I'm not alone. Others have been through this too. They, know, and something to relate to.
You are well deserving of retirement, and here you are on a Sunday at my home doing this. As a victim, it gives me hope that, and of course with Kate and our Broken to Brilliant ambassadors, but to sit here with you and to see that you've chosen to help victims and support this charity.
Well, that's lovely of you to say, but there's nothing special about me. There are many, many people who are involved in this, and I joke about it, but it's true. I'm a hopelessly failed retiree. I can't fish, can't play golf, and can't reverse a caravan.
Thank God. I'm so glad you can't, because, in my eyes, it's very intimidating to know how to get that support. And here I am talking to somebody who is commissioner, and I'm having a one-on-one a human conversation with you. Any listener out there, this is a conversation that is really important to, have Bob Atkinson in the team. It could save a life, Bob.
Well, it's lovely of you to say, but I'm truly grateful for the chance to be still involved in things. And I'm grateful, for the work that Broken to Brilliant do. I'm proud to be one of their patrons, one of their 4 patrons.
Isn't this better than backing up a truck or going on, doing all of those retiree things?
No, I would never be critical of someone who's a grey nomad and wants to travel around the place. And I've probably been spoiled in my career too. I've seen a lot of Queensland and even Australia, so I've been very fortunate.
And you've got a very supportive family too.
Oh, yes. Well, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because I met you at the high tea. I was standing at the door, just for anyone. Here we are at this beautiful school that we went to, and just amazing, and the support of your family being there, and I got to meet you, and then I listened to your beautiful speech. Is there something you would like to add to this too?
Well, I think you've covered it really well.
I could keep going, but you don't want to come back.
No, and I'm not saying that Broken to Brilliant is the only organisation. There are lots of wonderful organisations out there, and often they're characterised by people who are just so genuine, dedicated and committed. Broken to Brilliant, though, they're all volunteers. Not one of them gets paid, and they've been doing this for nearly 10 years. So their character and dedication and commitment, really, they're just a marvellous group of people. So again,
they're shining the light.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
aren't they? And like you said, if it can come down to just 2 people knowing what to do, the right thing, like you would in a condition of an office where someone might lit up a cigarette, just knowing, hey, this is just not on. It's not even part of my thinking whether I say something or not.
That's it, and that's the tipping point in I think for what it's worth in societal change, where enough of us and most of us say, hey, this is not acceptable. It's not on. I'm going to say something and try and do something about this. And I think sadly we've still got a bit of a way to go yet with domestic violence, and that's very understandable, because societal change does take time. But hopefully now, because of the attention to it, the awareness which is growing, the awareness of the extent of the problem that it is in our community was hidden for so long. There's an unstoppable momentum now that will continue until we're in a better place. And if you agree with this, and many people do, it will also sort of segue into other societal issues as well.
Absolutely. It's just that one, boom, this is how we roll. This is the way it has to be humanely treated.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm 51 and 4 years ago was able to understand by letting my therapists know, and I've been with them for over 25 years, the flashbacks. Could I describe why I would go into an anxiety attack or be bedridden? And with every single brave moment of being vulnerable and disclosing something that in my head I've been trained, I'm the one that's the problem, psychologically, spiritually. Yeah. It's like I'm 51 and I'm just learning to find me, and it's been wonderful.
Isn't that interesting? And well, firstly, you're not alone. In the Child Abuse Royal Commission, we had people who came forward who wanted to tell their story. In some cases, 60 and 70 years had gone by before that happened. And another is that aspect that you just touched on, which is called gaslighting, and that book I mentioned by Jess Hill, See What You Made Me Do. In other words, I did something bad, but you were the cause of it. You provoked me to behave that way. That gaslighting, psychological manipulation. And it's such a powerful thing. It really can. People can actually think, oh, maybe it is my fault, and
it's the whole root of your core thinking.
Or maybe I shouldn't say anything, you know, and those things can be really ingrained. So that's all, I think, part of the picture as we move forward too.
I think I'm so blessed to have, whether it took 51 years to find these amazing people, my therapist, my team, and learning to like I said, I did the Stepping Stones program.
Yes.
To see me in a completely different light. I like what I see. And listeners out there, I hope that you can find something in these conversations today that will give you an uplifting momentum or hope, or you can reach out if somebody needs some help. And we couldn't deliver this without such a wonderful person here today, Bob Atkinson.
That's too kind. Thanks, Nicci, and thanks for what you're doing with this as well.
Oh, this is my sweet spot. This is what Broken to Brilliance brought out in me. So it's so lovely to be able to do something.
I think we've got a lot to be optimistic and hopeful for, haven't we?
Yeah. Oh, don't we? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
It is inspirational to hear these stories and how people want to pay it forward, turning the Broken to Brilliant mission into a reality. You can listen and download the podcasts from the brokentobrilliant.org website, where you will also find information about all our books and programs. By buying and reading our books, you support the charity, and the stories will help you recognise the red flags of abuse. You will be in awe of the strength and courage it takes for survivors to leave and rebuild their lives. All books in the series are available in print, ebook, and audiobook. You can send a message of hope and kindness by gifting a book to domestic violence survivors through the Give a Book program. Visit the website brokentobrilliant.org to find out more. Thank you for listening.